Hello and welcome back to After Whistle Sports Podcast. I'm Dylan and I'm joined by Jack. We've had a little bit of a hiatus since our last episode. I remember we did some NBA draft stuff, off-season stuff, but this is where we really make our mark here. This is our bread and butter. College football preseason outlook. We're about 3 weeks away from Nebraska and Northwestern going to Ireland,
They're
and
playing in Ireland?
they're playing in Ireland. I know. And I was thinking, out of all the games we could have put in Ireland, this is like a war game. Like, we're giving a Nebraska Northwestern. It
I
just
think the
doesn't.
Irish are gonna never want to watch football again, probably.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these teams are going, it's week 0. So, there's no other games on. If you want to watch college football, you're watching Nebraska against Northwestern in Ireland. That's all you have. And it just seems like that should be taxed, it's like a tariff. That should be taxed. That's not a good export, honestly.
No, no. Or is it at a soccer stadium?
I believe so. This isn't the first time they've done this. I think they were supposed to play in 2020 during the COVID year, but of
Really?
course there were COVID, so we couldn't
I mean,
play.
the thing is, NFL abroad makes more sense, but doing college games abroad, what are there Nebraska Cornhusker alums in Dublin? I don't know. I guess.
Listen, a while ago, I think they've done week 0 games 5 years. This is when they started it. Week 0, of course, is they play 3 or 4 games. Usually it's like Colorado State, Hawaii or something. But they've
Hmm.
recently started to do these big time games, as I'm doing air quotes, but
Big
uh,
time.
I think they did Stanford against Rice, and they did it in Australia. I think for the first time they did it, which is just why. But I guess it's a great look for all the overseas college football fans, and they're probably not getting a good game, but
Expanding the brand. Yeah. All right,
yeah, I
let's get
mean,
into this. So
let's get
today we,
started.
yeah, we are going through each conference, doing the over under win totals, going through each team's schedule, kind of serving as a conference preview, team by team preview. We decided to start with the Big 12. Um,
Yeah, this conference is always one of my favorites because um, it's even more special now that Texas and Oklahoma will be leaving this conference for the
yeah,
SEC in 2 years. So this is literally the chaos conference in my opinion. There's a lot of teams that are very interesting, a lot of teams that are around the same win totals, which makes um, for a pretty fun episode today. But just some oversight on what we're doing preseason football wise is we're going to try to go through all the Power Five conferences starting today with the Big 12. We're going to go through every single team, give a little overview, give our opinions, and that's going to come in the form of an over under prediction in terms of betting lines. And then hopefully that will do a good enough job to basically carry us through the season, almost like an intro to college football. And then we can do our normal weekly reviews, weekly predictions in week 0 and beyond. So let's get right into it with the worst team projected in the Big 12. And this team is the team that is almost like the stomping stone for all the other Big 12 teams, except they've beaten Texas 2 years in the last 4.
how about last year, 57-56, Kansas's upset win, overtime win over Texas? It just brings a smile to your face, you know? Like, Texas was not back.
It's
They have
amazing.
not.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's hard to not be romantic about college.
Yeah. Do you think that this team can build upon that win last year and get over 2.5 wins?
Well, I mean that's a lofty goal for any squad who starts the year off by playing powerhouses such as Tennessee Tech, and out of conference games like home versus Duke. But uh, I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard to find 3 wins on the schedule, considering I think they're going to beat Tennessee Tech at home. I think they're probably going to beat Duke at home. And they have another road out of conference game at Houston. Uh, besides that, it's just kind of it's hard to call the Big 12 a gauntlet this year. But if you're the Kansas Jayhawks, I mean, maybe they squeak out a win against home versus TCU, home versus Iowa State, at Texas Tech, maybe. I'll probably take over 2.5. But it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I agree. Like I honestly, I would stay away from betting this team at all. They're just it's hard to find the three wins. Like Tennessee Tech win. I'll say West Virginia at West Virginia is probably maybe 15% chance they could win that game. I mean, West Virginia is pretty bad. West Virginia is like
You
they're
also
not that
don't know,
good.
like some of these teams, like we see it every year where like one or two of these teams projected 8 or 9 wins just absolutely falls apart.
Yeah,
Usually it's Texas, but this year it could be Oklahoma. It could be Baylor. 2 years ago, they only won 2 games. What David Ronda did with the program last year, we'll definitely talk about it, once we get to them. But you really never know. Like one of these teams could definitely like
yeah.
lower down to Kansas.
And we saw Lance Leipold, who was a first year coach for Kansas last year. I mean, he played like his team played pretty well against top tier teams. I mean, they should have beaten Oklahoma last year too. They need the Caleb Williams, whatever that the
Yeah.
handoff from the running back to the quarterback, which gave them a big first down. But they were in that game the entire way. Of course, they beat Texas. Um, they weren't the Kansas that we're used to seeing, and so like that's why I might be leaning towards the over. They're returning their quarterback, junior Jalen Daniels. They have a really old roster. A lot of seniors on the defense, a lot of juniors, a lot of upperclassmen. Again, there is negative talent on this team. This is maybe the least talented team in Power Five football. But I think Lance Leipold is actually a really good coach. And I think he did a solid job last year. I'm curious to see what they do this year. I wouldn't bet the over 2.5, but if I had to choose like over or under, I would probably choose the over. And I might lean towards thinking they beat one of these mediocre Big 12 teams at home, like a TCU or I almost said Texas just to get on Texas's fans' nerves, but they can beat Texas, they can beat Duke, and so all you need is two basically because you're going to beat Tennessee Tech, so you need two more wins. I would
Hey,
say,
I mean, it could. You never know. College football is a crazy thing, but I'm with you. And
yeah,
they always have basketball. Let's move on. Want to talk about Iowa State?
that'll be great. Iowa State, um, current over unders at 6.5. Really interesting schedule here. They play at Texas. They play at Oklahoma State, but they also get Oklahoma at home. So, I mean, it's not terrible in terms of like the home and away splits against the big boy teams, but non-conference they play Southeastern Missouri, should be a win. They play at Iowa. I'm leaning towards that being a loss. They get Ohio, and then they go right into Baylor at home. So very good chance that they are 2-1 going to that Baylor week, and so I think they have a good chance of, or like their most likely chance is being 2-2 into, and then they get Kansas State, and Texas. So 6.5. I think I want to say the over. Um, this team, I believe they won 8 games last year. Then of course the year before they had a really good season, but it's a tough non-conference with Iowa. I'm curious to see what you think about their how they match up to like Oklahoma State, and Texas because those are
Yeah,
real matchups that I think are up for grabs.
yeah. I'm gonna disagree with you. I like the under here. I mean, last year was the most talented roster Iowa State has ever had. Obviously lost Brees Hall, lost a couple key pieces. Matt Campbell. Um, he's a good coach. Definitely disappointing for him and the fan base last year. I don't know if I can find 7 wins on this roster. I mean on the schedule. I agree they'll beat Southeastern Missouri. I agree they'll beat Ohio. I agree they'll beat Kansas. I think they'll. I mean, after that, like there really aren't any, locks for them to win. Like Texas Tech at home, probably. You
West
know,
Virginia at home, no way.
TCU on the road, maybe. I mean, probably. But I mean, West Virginia. I don't know. We'll talk about them there. But adding JT Daniels from Georgia, this is a different team. I think. Uh, than it was for sure. We'll see. I think also
Yeah,
is that game. Oh, it's at home versus West Virginia. I was gonna say playing at West Virginia, I think is definitely tougher because of how little things there are to do in West Virginia. Absent go to football games. But I'm taking the under here. I think they win 5 or 6 games. Uh, and I think Matt Campbell's dreams of coaching in an actual program, are not. But we'll see.
Yeah, I just want to real quick spend a little bit more time on like the maybe like a roster overview because they do return some guys. Of course, they lose Brock Purdy, who's been it seems like the starting quarterback for like 6 years. He's been in school forever, but they don't have him anymore. They're going to the projected starter, going to be sophomore, redshirt sophomore Hunter Deckers, who again like there's always going to be this mystery around the new quarterback after you've stuck with the same guy and had success with the same guy for a while. But they have some weapons on offense. Xavier Hutchinson is one of the better wide receivers, I think, in the Big 12, possibly an NFL player. Will McDonald is a great pass rusher, defensive end. It's like this team has talent. Like I think this team is more talented than the 6.5. But I'm worried about their schedule. Like they do have a fairly difficult schedule. I'm worried about the quarterback situation, and then how you basically like get the weapons to play after you lost Brees Hall, who was of course like you had to
There's
game
also two more pieces on defense. Mike Rose, the linebacker, and Greg Eisworth, the defensive back,
yeah.
also both went to the NFL. I don't know. I think no a new quarterback, new running back, key pieces on defense missing. They could put it together. But some of these other teams seem more complete.
Yeah, I just like I can find 6 wins very easily on the schedule. It's that seventh win is going to have to be either at Iowa, against Baylor at home, against Oklahoma at home, or at Oklahoma State is where I'm leaning. So out of those 4 games where they can win one, or if you think that they can win one, I think they can hit the over. And I personally think they're going to beat one of those teams on the road.
How about Texas Tech?
Interesting. Yeah. Again, like a pretty interesting squad. New coach, Coach McGuire, who on the recruiting trail has done a really nice job in his first cycle. I believe they have a top 25 recruiting class, which is really good for a Texas Tech squad who has been pretty mellow for the past few years. Looking at their non-conference, it's very difficult. Murray State at home should be a win, but then they go Houston at home, NC State on the road, and then they have Texas at home in week 4. So you can very easily see this team going 1-3 through the first 4 weeks, and the over/under is at 5. So then you need to basically find 4 more wins out of Kansas State, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Baylor, TCU, Kansas, Iowa State, Oklahoma. Personally, I don't see over 5. Again, this is one of those situations where I think their team is better than 5 wins. I just don't think their non-conference schedule will allow it. Playing Houston at home and then going at NC State, who's projected to be a top 15 team. It's just a pretty tough gauntlet for them.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, looking at these first 6 games, I would be shocked even if they won more than one of them. I mean, Murray State probably, but Houston, NC State, Texas, at K State, at Oklahoma State, that feels like 5 straight losses. Um, I think West Virginia at home, maybe. Baylor at home, probably not. TCU on the road, maybe, probably not. Kansas at home, probably. I mean, we're in like the 3 at Iowa State, probably not. Oklahoma at home, probably not. This is a 3 or 4 win team, I think. I mean,
I will say, transfer Tyler Shaw from Oregon, he's gonna be a redshirt senior, is going to be pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
mean,
think he's definitely going to elevate what this offense could be from last year.
that's fair. New head coach. I think this is going to be, maybe they pull off one random upset maybe they beat Texas at home. Maybe they beat Oklahoma at home. Maybe they beat Baylor at home. Maybe they steal one from Oklahoma State or K State on the road. One of those could definitely happen. But even so, we're still at the 4 or 5 win taking over 5 rather than, if it was 4.5, I would definitely be a little bit more willing to pull the trigger. But I kind of like the under here. I think.
Mm. Again, Joey McGuire though, he's building a program, and I really think he's a good head coach. So again, their schedule's just so hard that you can't find 6 games basically, and that's the problem with this team.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move
Got
on.
my hopes saving this one.
Yeah, let's move on to TCU. Again, we're kind of sitting in this tier of like the 5, 6.5, 6 win total. TCU's at 6.5. So
Ooh,
interesting
these are some
that
interesting non-conference games.
yeah, I mean they go at Colorado first game, which we'll talk about when we talk about our Pac-12 rankings, but I think this is a complete winnable game for TCU. I really don't think Colorado's going to be that good. Tarleton is bad, terrible. They should win that. So that's 2-0 in my opinion. At SMU, not a gimme, but I think TCU's got a better team. SMU, of course, lost their head coach, so that should be another win for TCU. They have Oklahoma at home. They have Oklahoma State at home. They have Kansas State at home. They are on the road against Texas and Baylor, and then they have Iowa State at home. I think this is a 6-win team. I would probably take the under. They have a really favorable schedule though. I just don't like their roster as much as some of these other teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on the under. I mean, I don't think at Colorado or SMU are gimmies at all.
They'll beat Colorado. Colorado's not good.
We'll see. I mean, probably, but at SMU was pretty good last year. Didn't they win 10 games?
They lost their head coach. He went to where'd he go? Was he at TCU? Hold up. Yeah. No. Sonny Dykes, the coach of SMU, went to TCU. Sonny Dykes is the coach of TCU this year.
Is he really?
Yes. So basically it's a homecoming basically for Coach Dykes, and he's going like
Oh my, that's actually kind of crazy.
that is
Oh,
nuts.
wow.
Again, though, like they should win that game.
I don't know. Find me 7 wins on the schedule. I will sit here
Right now, I'll
and
find you 7 wins.
okay.
Can I try? All right.
Sure.
Colorado, Tarleton, SMU, 3 wins. Then we have Iowa State at home. I think they win. 4 wins. At Kansas, win. 5 wins. Texas Tech at home, win. 6 wins. That 7th win is elusive at West Virginia.
Bro,
That's the 7 wins.
Stealing. That's
the 7 wins. No, it's not.
But that is
I still haven't
stealing,
losing.
bro.
Jack,
The
I still haven't
Florida's
losing to
team winning, like,
Oklahoma.
3 games.
Jack, they have Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Iowa State all at home. How favorable is that? They have to win a few of those games. They have to win at least one of those games.
I don't even think they have to beat SMU and Colorado.
Yeah, I think that's a bad take.
I think this team's floor is like 2 wins over Tarleton and Kansas. I mean, do I think they're going to win more?
Jack,
Probably. I think they're like a 4-win team.
Jack, they won 5 games. They won 5 games last year. Okay, they fired that coach. They hired Sonny Dykes, who I think is a much better coach. Okay, they return Quentin Johnson, who might be a first-round wide receiver next year. They return quarterback Max Duggan, who's one of the better like dual threat quarterbacks in the Big 12. They return basically their entire offensive line, all seniors, all upperclassmen. Return their tight end. Half their defense is seniors, redshirt seniors. They return all of these guys. I think that they're going to win 2 more games than they did last year. To me, it's a 7-win team.
We'll see. Maybe maybe they're a 5-6 win team. Maybe you have 3-4 win teams, an overreaction. But I'm not taking the over.
Okay, Jack. Who do you have your losses to? Texas Tech. You think they're going to lose to Texas Tech at home?
No, probably not.
You think they're going to lose to Iowa State at home?
Maybe. I don't know.
You think they're going to lose to Kansas on the road?
No.
Okay, so 3 games right there on top of
I think they lose to SMU on the road.
Fine, but even in that case, you don't think they beat one of...
Well, then you have to win. I think you still have to win at K-State at home and
I think they lose to K-State, and they beat West Virginia. I think you're going to notice is going to be the team that we say all these teams are going to beat, because I think they're going to be awful next year.
Maybe.
remember someone's got to lose these games. So like this is a good like exercise because as you go through the same teams, I'm gonna have losing.
I
I
know.
think
I'm
they're gonna
definitely
lose.
saying the same teams lose to each other because they're all terrible. But like, I don't know. We'll see. Someone's got to win. It's there.
Just to be
I don't
clear,
know. I just think I kind of think like the tiers will separate in the Big 12, and that like I just think like Oklahoma, obviously like some like you've seen it, Kansas beat Texas, but like Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, Baylor, K State are just playing a different game in the rest of the
yeah,
season.
but out of that next tier, TCU with a returning quarterback who not only is returning but was really good last year on both the ground and with his arm. You're returning Quentin Johnston, who's maybe like he's probably the second best wide receiver in the conference, other than
I
Xavier
mean,
Worthy.
how about this? Iowa State, K State, and TCU win totals were all set at 6.5.
Yeah, and I think that TCU has. I think Kansas State and TCU are going to hit the over, and I think Iowa State's going to be the under.
I think K State's gonna be under. I think both are over, and both the other teams are gonna be under. I don't know. We'll see. We haven't even talked about K
We'll talk
State or
about it.
West
So
Virginia.
just to close, I have TCU over 6.5. You have them under.
Yeah,
Okay, we should write this down so we can see where we're at later in the
yeah.
season, a little bit
Um,
after. But let's move on. Now we're getting to some of the better teams. I think we want to look at K State. So
should we
I'm.
talk about West Virginia first? Let's talk about West
Oh
Virginia.
yeah, let's talk about West Virginia. Well, I don't really want to. I feel like I've picked on them enough at this point.
Yeah, but their out of conference schedule is kind of interesting. We can do it quick.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So they go at Pitt. They have the
They're
backyard
set. They're set
brawl.
at 5.5. By the way,
Yeah, backyard brawl at Pitt. Like this should be amazing. First of all, kudos to both these teams for deciding to play this rivalry game. Should just be a ton of fun. But yeah, Pitt.
and they played. Sorry, they played Virginia Tech, another rivalry game on the road out of
Yeah, and they'll lose both those. Let's just be clear.
conference. Yeah.
Let's just like say what it is. They'll lose both those games. They'll beat Kansas. They'll beat Towson. They have Oklahoma and Kansas State
Ooh,
at home,
this is a
which is
tough
very
stretch.
interesting, and Baylor at home. But they go Oklahoma, Iowa State, Oklahoma, Kansas State, Oklahoma State. You can lose 3 of those games very easily if you're West Virginia. 5.5. I'm pretty confident in the under. Kansas and Towson are locks to win. Those are 2 wins. You need basically what 4 more wins. I don't see them anywhere on the schedule. I think they win 3 games this year. That is my hot take, but I really think they win 3 games.
I could see wins at Texas Tech and at home versus TCU. Am
Fine.
I still?
Even
I
if
mean,
even if they win one of those, that's what 4 like
yeah. I mean, I'm probably taking the. I don't know. I
Can we just
guess
look
I.
through this roster? I just want to look through this roster because like this roster is really terrible. They're starting JT Daniels at quarterback, who this is what his third school after the USC highly recruited transfer, then goes to Georgia, never plays at all. He played a little bit actually, and Georgia fans wanted him to start, and then we all know what happened there. Then he's at West Virginia, his third stop
Mailman.
in his college career. I think he has talent. Like I still think he's a good quarterback, but the rest of his offense is pretty brutal. Um, they don't have a real playmaker on the outside. Defense is not terrible. They weren't even that bad last year. Uh, it's just this team won 6 games last year. They went 4-5 in conference. I think they're gonna be on a decline. This team's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Finding 6 wins on your schedule is hard. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It could happen. I could see them beating Iowa State on the road. But and maybe they pick off one of these games. Pitt, VT, Texas, Baylor, Oklahoma, K State, Oklahoma State. If they win one or two of those, not 5.5, not that high. Especially given there's like 2 or 3 that seem like kind of like gimmies. But I
Yeah, but
don't know.
it's always tough when you know that they're gonna start off with 2 losses to Pitt and Virginia Tech, and then you have to go to Texas, Baylor.
I mean, you think Virginia Tech? I mean, obviously it's hard to play them on the road. One of the hardest for sure. But you think that's definitely a loss?
I think Virginia Tech is better than them.
Yeah.
But let's move on to maybe some of the some of the higher win totals because it feels like we've taken the under on everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go to who haven't we done yet? Baylor.
We even done K State. That's
Oh,
the
K
last
State.
one.
Let's do K State. Let's do K State. So what is it? I don't even know what this team is. As is this South
South
Dakota
Dakota is.
Agricultural School or something? Oh, what is this?
I'm looking it up. I don't know.
It's just South Dakota. Oh, but South Dakota Dakota. So it's not even South Dakota State. It's just straight up South Dakota.
Like University of South Dakota.
It must be.
Um,
So that's a win. They play Mizzou, which we can talk about it when we go through SEC stuff, but I'm actually a little bit more bullish on Mizzou than most. K-State at Mizzou, I would have to lean for that being a loss, but it's probably a solid game. Tulane should be a win. I think they upset one of these teams, one of Texas, Baylor, Oklahoma State. I think they beat one of those teams. 6.5. I like the over. I like a dark horse Big 12 championship bet here. I think their roster is a lot better than people expect. And remember, this was a team that was good last year. Let me pull up what they did last year, but they were 7-5, which I mean, that a pretty solid team. They went 4-5 in conference, which of course you hope is going to be better. But the returning Deuce Vaughn, who's arguably the best back in the Big 12 other than Bijan Robinson. Very
how about
good.
this? Deuce Vaughn, I just want to interject. 1,900 yards from scrimmage and 22 touchdowns.
No, he's crazy. He's just an outstanding player. Adrian Martinez, transfer from Nebraska, who's a great dual threat guy. I think he fits the offense really, really well. Cade Warner, they bring back. Malik Knowles, they bring back. Offensive line, they bring everyone back. Defense has guys. Kobe Savage, Josh Hayes, both their safeties are on NFL radars.
Felix Anuke Uzoma, you know this guy. He had the second most sacks in all of college football.
Yeah, no, he's good. Their defensive line is pretty solid.
I really like this over 6.5. I'm probably gonna bet on this myself. I mean, South Dakota, I think they win. I think they start off the season 3-0, even though like I agree Missouri and Tulane are like, I mean, I don't know how you feel about Tulane.
They'll be Tulane. They'll be Tulane.
I agree. At Oklahoma's probably lost. I think versus Texas Tech at home is probably a win. That's 4-1. At Iowa State, at TCU, I think they could be 6-1 going into this stretch of these top 3 games. And then they only need, I mean, and they're going to be Kansas. So that's and they're going to probably be West Virginia. I think this is an 8-win team.
Do you want to hear a fun little stat here? Guess how many players Kansas State has in the all Big 12 preseason team?
It does every position. Is it just first team?
Every position, yep.
Is it first team or is it all the teams?
First team.
First team. I'm going to go 3.
They have 5 players.
Wow.
On the preseason all Big 12 first team. They have Deuce Vaughn at running back. They have Trevor Downing at O-line. They have Cooper Bebby at O-tackle. I mean, again, their offensive line is going to be very good. They get Felix Uzama, the sack leader, defensive line. They return Daniel Green, linebacker. They return Julius Brents, defensive back. And Malik Knowles is the kick returner and punt returner. So actually, that's 6. 6 all Big 12 first team preseason selections. They have talent. I think they're well coached. I think they have an all around good roster. They have a favorable schedule. I like the over 6.5 a lot. I think they win 8 or even 9 games. I think they're a dark horse bet for a Big 12 champion if you want to have a riskier bet there. But again, like this is a team that's going to beat Oklahoma or a Texas or a Baylor. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
So let's move on to now we can go Baylor. Baylor, I believe, is at 8. That is the over-under. Really interesting squad. This Baylor team. Dave Aranda has done an amazing job. Last year they won what 10 games last year. They almost
Yeah.
made the college football playoff. Uh, they're just a good team. They lose some guys to the NFL draft, but they return a lot of their O linemen, including Connor Galvin and Jacob Gall, who are two All American first team players. They return the tight end Ben Sims, who's on NFL radars. Should be really good. I believe they announced their quarterback. There was a little bit of a uh, quarterback challenge there, but I gotta pull up the depth chart real quick to see if they've announced that yet. But they had a
Baylor's
few
got
solid.
some interesting. Their O line is definitely very, very good. The O line and D line, I think, is somewhere that they're still strong for sure. I worry about their skill position, for sure. I think their running back, wide receiver, quarterback is a little bit suspect to me, especially after losing a couple key defensive pieces. Some return, but this team won 2 games 2 years ago. It's something you really got to remember. Let's go through the schedule. Versus Alabama, Albany, or no, Albany. That's obviously one. At BYU. What do you think there?
Yeah, BYU is gonna be interesting.
I think they can lose this game.
I think they win it. And just to note, Blake Shapen has been announced the starter, so QB competition over. He's gonna be the guy to go. Redshirt sophomore. I mean, he didn't really play very much last year, but we'll see what happens. I mean, Texas Tech or Texas State, they should win. At West Virginia, they should win. Versus Kansas, they should win. At Kansas State at home, they should win. TCU at home, they should win. I think they beat Oklahoma State at home. I think they're a better team. And then you're looking at BYU, Oklahoma, and Texas. And I think one of those games they need to win in order to hit the over.
So I think they're going to lose to Oklahoma State at home.
I disagree.
I also think they're going to lose to BYU on the road.
Disagree.
I think they could. I think they lose to Texas and Oklahoma on the road too, and I think there's a good chance they drop a home game against either K-State or TCU or maybe Iowa State on the road. I don't feel confident in over 8 wins here. I think this is a 7-win team. Maybe they're an 8-win team. I definitely don't think it's a 9.
I think this could be a push. Right.
I
think
would say most confidently this would be an 8-win team. But I think they're more likely to be 7 than 9.
Well, I think they'll have a worse season than last year. Now the question is, do they beat? The question is, do you think Texas has taken a big enough step forward to beat them?
We'll get there. I do.
Like that's really what it comes down to. And I think based on what we've picked already, we believe Texas is going to be pretty solid. But I mean, again, there's a lot of ambiguity with this conference just because Oklahoma has a new coach, Texas has a new quarterback. Texas won 3 games last year. And then you have some of these other teams who have deficiencies, but also have a lot of strengths. Like in the trenches, Baylor is going to be really good. Their run game, I think, is going to be pretty good. It's just the question is how good is Blake Shapen at QB going to be, and do they have the skill position players to score points with the Oklahomas and the Texases?
The skill especially in the Big 12, which I think is a conference dominated by these.
You said the meme. You said the meme. It's not true anymore. Their defense is really good. It's not true anymore.
Okay, I'm with you. I don't think the defense is bad, but I think the emphasis is still on.
I think it's a change, dude. I think
name a conference that is more lopsided in favor of offense.
Jack, just listen to me right now.
Name any conference.
Out. Jack, Lincoln Riley's out. Brett Venables, the new coach of Oklahoma, defensive minded. Texas, I'm not gonna talk about because their defense and offense sucked last year. Let's just say it how it was. Oklahoma State, defensive driven team. They lost their defensive coordinator Jim Knowles to Ohio State, but they're still gonna have guys on the defense. Baylor, guess what? Defensive driven team. Kansas State, they're interesting because they run all these RPO read option stuff, but again, they have solid defensive guys. This conference, I'm done with the myth of this being the hook and ladder, shootout games, the 54-52 games. No, this is a conference with good defense.
Oh yeah, it's not like Kansas just dropped 56 points to beat Texas by one. And okay, it's fine.
I'm
You know
not
what?
talking
Let's
about
talk
Texas.
about
Texas
Texas.
is
If we're talking
terrible.
about me buying into the memes, I want to talk about Texas because
Let's
Texas
talk about Texas.
is
Let's do it.
back, baby. Texas is back. No, okay, I'm obviously kind of trolling, but oh my God, they played Bama on the week 2
Oh,
at home.
wait, real quick, before we talk about Texas, can I please go through some news with the Texas football team that I just received, I think yesterday,
After
from
the
one of their
Whistle Sports
from one of their
sources.
practices. Listen, from one of their practices, I've heard that they had a few injuries, including Isaiah Nair, who is supposed to be the second wide receiver, is out for the season with a knee injury. You have a guy you hauled, the transfer wide receiver from Alabama, had some legal problems. Our first legal issue guy.
Legal issue.
We're not sure what
We like
he's
ring a
doing.
bell, like get some kind of like.
We should, honestly. There's also, I think, another offensive lineman who might be out for the season with an injury. So they've already been hit with the injury bug. Isaiah Nair, who we would probably talk about as being one of the impact players, had a great season last year. It's a big loss for them because Xavier Worthy is going to be the wide receiver one, but there's a bunch of guys who are going to be really solid in the supporting cast role. And so without Nair, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to basically cover that spot, but they still have talent on this roster. Just before we go into the schedule, can we please talk about this roster? Because this is good. Xavier Worthy, incredible. Had a great freshman season last year. I'm pretty sure he was the Big 12 freshman of the year. Quinn Ewers, transfer from Ohio State, the number one quarterback recruit in the history of quarterback recruits.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
crazy.
Their offensive line's terrible. And I've said this to a bunch of other people. Like, I'm not going to name names, but he's probably listening to the pod. He's been a huge Texas supporter, but I've been trying to hinder expectations just a little bit because in the trenches, they're still the team that won 3 games last year and lost to Kansas State and Kansas. So they had
Texas
a really
is back, baby.
They had
Bijan
a
Robinson,
really good-
Heisman season. They went 5-7. They did not win 3 games.
good Jack, do you want to know their wins? Let's go through their wins.
No, I don't want to go through.
Let's
their
do
wins,
it. Let's
but
do
I do
it.
think this is a 10-win team.
They won
Talk
3
about
games in the Big 12 last year. 3. That's it.
Look,
This team's bad.
I think this team loses to Bama. I think this team loses to Oklahoma State on the road. I think this team beats Oklahoma at home and beats Baylor at home. Is that crazy?
This is the easiest under 9 play you'll ever make. The
Xavier
easiest.
Worthy,
This
Bijan
is the
Quinn
easiest
Ewers.
play. This is a free money. Okay, this is free money. I want to go through my whole case against this team. It's like, again, I want Texas to be good, but they are not at the level to win like 10 games. They're not. This team is not good enough to win 10 games. They're not. Their offensive line is bad. They recruited really well last season. They have really good freshman offensive linemen, but those guys will not play this year. And if they do, then this team's going undefeated because that means that they're good enough to play in the Big 12. And with their talent level, that fine. I don't believe that's going to happen. With the injuries to Nair, I think that their offense is not going to be as good from the bat as people think. Again, Quinn Ewers, great quarterback. But we saw Texas struggle to start the season with new quarterbacks before. And then they had the Alabama game. And that's a game that will crush your soul. That's a game where Alabama wins by 38. Okay?
Is there any, like, there's no chance Texas wins this game.
Alabama will go up 21-0 in the first half.
Yeah.
They will then end up winning, like, what, 42?
What do we think the spread's going to be, like 17?
Dude, Alabama's going to beat these guys so badly that people are going to be wanting to cash in their over bets. Like, this is not something where Texas is going to gain momentum coming out of the Alabama game. Not happening.
But UTSA, Texas Tech, and then West Virginia, they could definitely, they will be 4-1 going into Oklahoma on the road.
Okay, they're going to lose to Oklahoma on the road. Okay. They're going
I
to
don't
lose
know
to
if I'm
Oklahoma.
with you there. I don't know. We'll get to Oklahoma in a second.
Red
I don't
River
know.
rivalry, you're going to lose. Again, where are you seeing this team so much better than last year?
I don't think last year was really representative of how this team was. It was Sark's
Why?
first
Why
year.
was it? Why are we
It
just
was
like
their
saying
coach's
wasn't
first
representative?
year. They have a new quarterback. They
Jack, they were terrible last year. They lost to Kansas.
I
They were
know, but
awful.
they
They had Bijan Robinson, and they sucked.
but he's back.
They're terrible. I'm sorry. I'm so
All
sorry.
these guys have a
Listen,
year of
8-4
experience.
is good.
They have the best
For
QB
Texas
recruit in the
for this.
history of
The way Texas
football.
football has been, 8-4 is great.
What
And
did Arch come in?
Texas
I don't
fans are going to be
remember.
pissed. Texas fans are going to be pissed when they go 8-4, but that's a step in the right direction. Because remember, they were awful last year. They weren't even a bad team. They were terrible.
I think. Do you really think it was just that they were that bad, and it wasn't like that Baylor and Oklahoma State were better?
Jack, they lost to Kansas
I know they lost to Kansas.
at home.
Okay?
What are you
I
doing?
know,
What are you
no,
doing?
It made me. It brought a
Sorry,
tear to
what are
my
you
eye,
doing? You
but,
lose to Kansas and Kansas State. What are you doing? 4 or 5 stars, I don't care. How are you losing to these teams?
They haven't
Man,
lost.
you
these
can
teams
start
this
Peyton
year.
Manning
It's a
back there
different
last year. You can start Peyton Manning back there. You can start Arch Manning. I don't care, dude. Last year they were terrible.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm
You
not
don't win
taking.
in the
I wouldn't
trenches.
like.
You're a
I
soft
wouldn't bet.
football
I'm not
team.
going to bet on over 9, but I'm not shocked if this team goes 7-2.
When you're looking at some of these teams, some of the things you want to look at is like the roster, and you also want to look at their culture. Okay, and I know it's too early to tell, but Texas has been bad, or pretty bad, for what, 3 or 4 years now? I guess they won the Sugar Bowl that one year against Georgia, and everyone thought Texas was back. Then they proceeded to what, only win 8 games or 9 games? Like, it's tough, and especially when you have Alabama in your non-conference. I don't know. I'm not seeing 9 games. I see 8-4, which is, listen, that's a great season for Texas where they were last year. But if you think they got enough talent from one recruiting class, from their transfer wide receiver who has legal issues from Alabama right now, if you think they got enough to win 4 more games than last year, like, I don't think that's the case.
All right, let's talk about who's left. We got Oklahoma. We got Oklahoma State. Is that it?
I think that's it. Yeah, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Yeah. What do you want to do first? Let's do Oklahoma.
Okay. I like Oklahoma. I think they're gonna hit the over 9.5.
Let's talk. Okay, so Oklahoma, obviously Lincoln Riley went to USC. Caleb Williams went with him. Spencer Rattler left to go to South Carolina. Oklahoma, it's a fundamentally different team. They've had some problems. This whole thing with Gundy and the D coordinator and all this stuff.
Yeah, they're interesting.
They're definitely interesting. But they've won 10 games. The last 6, 7 straight years.
They won 11 games last year.
Wow,
in a
crazy.
down year. In a down year.
Yeah. This is a QB factory we're talking about.
And listen, this team has talent. They have a lot of talent, and I think that Brett Venables is a really good coach. But if you look to this roster, wide receivers, Theo Wees, Drake Stoops, Marvin Mims is very good. Offensive line is gonna be solid. Okay, the Gabriel Dillon transfer from UCF, Southpaw quarterback, is going to man the ship. I think he's extremely underrated. I think he hasn't been talked about enough in terms of transfer quarterbacks.
Remember he committed to UCLA for a day? That was hilarious.
Yeah.
We thought it was awesome. But,
They returned Eric Gray at running back, who's a very good Big 12 running back. Their defense has talent. That's the thing. I think when they're coached to the level of Brett Venables' liking, I think they're going to be really, really good. To me, this is a 10-win team. To me, this is a Big 12 championship team. Possibly, maybe a college football playoff team. I don't know. Is that a hot take? Oklahoma college football playoff? Is that a hot take?
Guess how many preseason all Big 12 first team members?
I bet they have I don't really know because like they don't have that many guys for like the top of their position. They just have a lot of really good players. Listen, I bet their punter is the only guy on there, Eddie Turk.
It actually I didn't even look at special teams. Wow, dude, you are a machine. The punter
Was it the
is the
punter?
only guy.
Let's go.
They have zero. I was gonna say they have zero, but you're right. The Michael Turk.
Oh, Michael Turk. Listen,
Well,
he's a good punter.
how do you know what? Okay. I don't think Oklahoma wins 10 games this year. I mean, it's Brett Venables' first year. They lost their quarterback. They lost their coach. They lost. I mean, they have a lot of defensive. I mean, I think the amount of recruits that flipped too after this. I don't think. I mean, the struggles they've had with this whole D coordinator situation. I don't think it's the Big 12 championship.
Dude, their
I
O
agree.
coordinator, they picked up Jeff Lebby from Ole Miss as their offensive coordinator.
I
Who was
agree that's a good
mastermind.
hire. But I don't think they win 10 games. I think they might lose to K State.
Okay, okay. Let's go through the schedule. We love going through the schedule. We did it for Texas. Let's go through the schedule here. UTEP, win. Kent State, win. At Nebraska, win. Maybe,
But that Nebraska is not impossible.
maybe. I'll say maybe, but probably 60% chance they win that game. K State at home, win. At TCU, win. Red River rivalry against Texas, win.
They
Kansas,
might lose all three of those games. Whatever. This team
Kansas,
could be 2
win.
and 4 after
Iowa
6
State on the road, win. Baylor at home, probably a loss. No, probably a win. West Virginia, loss. Oklahoma State at home, they win. Texas Tech, they win. They can go undefeated with the schedule.
I think this team wins 7.
7? Hold up, what?
I don't know. I maybe 8. I don't. This is not 8 10 win. I don't think it's a 9 win team.
That's why that's really so. What the Texas you think is gonna win what 10 games? 11? Is Texas gonna go undefeated?
No, I don't. But I think they lose Texas. I think they lose to Oklahoma State. I think they lose.
You think they lose to
couple-
Texas?
Yes. I think Oklahoma. I think Texas versus Oklahoma in Oklahoma. The Texas Longhorns beat Oklahoma.
Yo, question: should we go to that game? Should we go to the Red River rivalry?
Yo, that would be crazy.
Yo, we need a sponsor to listen to this. Like, send us out there, please.
Yes,
We get a
we're
press
hearing
pass
this.
and everything.
Give us some tickets, bro. So just so we can, yeah, that'll be fire. But I don't know. I think they could lose to Baylor. I think they could lose on the road at TCU. I think they could lose at home versus K State. I think they could lose on the road at Nebraska. I think this schedule is minefield, left and right, and I don't think they have the experience to navigate. Dylan Gabriel, I agree, he's good. He's a good dual threat quarterback. I don't think the pieces are there around him, both from the skill positions, from the O line, from the secondary, D line. It's all just kind of mixed.
Okay,
I
real
don't
quick
know.
though. Real quick.
Matt,
Can I make a point? So, another thing you want to look at with these win totals in the schedule is you want to see like what games come before and after these big games, right? Because there's obviously like the idea of a trap game or like a let up game. So they before Nebraska they played Kent State, pretty easy. You could game plan for Nebraska. Before Texas they have TCU, and then after Texas they have Kansas. So again, like no real opportunity for let up game.
Fair.
Before Baylor they have Iowa State. Before Oklahoma State they have West Virginia. I don't think they have very many like weeks in a row where it's like a death, it's like whereas Texas has, we look at Texas's schedule, go all the way down here. Where is Texas?
I agree with you, but I think there's also something to be said about momentum. I think like some of these are like, oh, we can relax playing on the road at TCU because we know we have Texas next week. Oh, we can relax at Iowa State because we have Baylor next week. Oh, at West Virginia, because we have Oklahoma State next week. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
Okay. Is there what's the one team we haven't done? Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Very interesting. 9. Can Oklahoma State string together 2 elite seasons? I want to take first when I look at this roster.
I think this team wins the Big 12.
Wins the Big 12. This is your pick.
Oklahoma State wins the Big 12.
I like that. I actually like the pick a lot. I like him better than Texas. That's for sure.
I like it better than Texas too. I would say
I mean, if I'm placing bets, I mean, first of all, I like K-State. After this podcast, I'm gonna go and bet on K-State. But you know, I think Oklahoma State. I think Texas. I think K-State all have good. Obviously, I'm not gonna say Oklahoma and Baylor don't have good shots in the Big 12 because they do. Might be wrong, but me personally, I think Oklahoma State. They have quarterback Spencer Sanders coming in his 4th year as a starter. DN Colin Oliver, really good. The D line is really good. They had some people left leave for sure. But I like it. I mean, they lost the D
Yeah,
coordinator
but
to
I
Ohio
thought
State.
you're all about these losing coordinators things. Like they lost their Jeff Knowles.
Yeah, but they got an SEC. They got Derek Mason from.
He's good. Vandy.
Where did this
Or
guy
where was
go?
he at? He was at like some. He was
No,
at,
he was at he was the head coach of Vandy. Yeah, he's the head
Yeah.
coach of Vandy. And now he's, a head SEC coach, obviously it's Vanderbilt, but a head SEC coach going to be the D coordinator of a Big 12 team. I don't think that's that bad. I mean,
Listen, I Oklahoma State is one of my favorite teams in college football because I think they encompass what the sport is. This is Oklahoma State, and yet they've produced elite teams, top 10 teams in a place where they definitely shouldn't have. Like they've beaten the big dogs.
kind of
And
the same
Mike
thing in
Gundy's a great
basketball
coach.
too. They've really done a good job given their.
They really have. And listen, their roster's good. Again, skill position, they're starting 2 sophomores at wide receiver, so a little bit of a question mark. Defense should be good. Spencer Saunders, I think, is pretty good as a quarterback. I mean, he's a ton of experience. I think this is his 4th year starting. They're going to be a good team. I don't think they win more than 9 games. I think it's a push. I think they go 9-3. But I can understand if someone likes them to win 10 games and win the Big 12. I think if you want the over, just bet on them being Big 12 champions, right? Doesn't that make more sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think this team wins 9, 10, 11 games.
11. College football playoff, Oklahoma State.
I'm not saying nothing, but I'm not saying nothing. Is it crazy?
That is nuts. That is nuts. They almost. Hey, listen. They were really close to getting in it last year. Remember?
They were. This team beat Notre Dame in the New Year's Six Fiesta Bowl. This team, has the Spencer Sanders was first team All Big 12, threw for 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, and rushed for 660 yards and had 6 touchdowns. Didn't play great in the Big 12 championship for sure. They lost K Martin, but they got a couple. Brennan Presley, quick. They've got 7 of their top 8 receivers came back.
But they're young.
Defense,
They're really young.
We already talked about. I think is very good. They got a new head coach with their, defensive coordinator. They were number 1 in the nation in sacks, 2nd in tackles for losses. They led the Big 12 in total and scoring defense.
How much of that was Coach Jim Knowles?
I don't know. It's hard to know. We'll see. But they averaged 4 sacks a game. Colin Oliver came back 10.5 sacks last year. They got Trace Ford, who was hurt all year. A couple other. This D line is like one of the best in college.
Yeah, no, the D line's really good.
I mean, obviously Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, whatever. But these edge rushers are really
nice. Okay, I think with that being said, that's a good point to wrap it up. Very interesting conference. Really excited to see how this plays out. Really excited to see Texas against Alabama.
this is so fun.
I just wanted to rip the hearts out of Texas's fans. Please, just do
Yeah,
that for me.
I think this is going to be the SEC. We'll talk about that. But I think this is going to be an SEC year.
Yep.
What year is it?
What was that?
I said, what year is it? So,
Yeah, Texas is back, bro.
Texas is back, baby. Let's go. Bijan Robinson Heisman. Quinn Ewers Heisman.
Oh yeah, we'll be back maybe later this week with another conference. I think we should. I don't know, go out west, go East Coast.
Go out west. We should go out west. Maybe.
We can go out west. We can go to my sleeper pick of the year. The Pac-12 has my sleeper pick of the year, my sleeper team of the year.
Yeah.
So if you, I'm excited to give my whole like case on it. But with that being said, thanks for listening. We'll be back later this week, and Texas is back, baby.
Go Bruins. What?